Hello everyone, this is Daniel, and I'll be talking to you about racism and slavery. Basically, there's two types of slavery right now. One of them is, it's okay in a sense that they work for free, and they're not treated ill-treated. They're not ill-treated. They're actually treated not with dignity, but with a little bit of respect of their own life. I mean, they could be one type of person, but they could not. They could actually be treated well, in a sense, because how the Romans had slaves. The Bible did say that you have to be, you know, accepting if you're accepting of your um, slaveholder, the one that owns you as a slave. Basically, because he's trying to build projects. He's trying to help the community. In one sense, you have to be accepting that you are a slave of someone and that you are a servant. And that tells you that, in God's sense, that you are very much a servant of that one guy. You are, and you are even more of a servant of God, because if you are a servant, basically that means you are known as a person that is not above everyone else. You are a person that is not above God. You are just not above yourself. A true servant is a person that does his best to serve others, and being a slave is basically serving others. And some people that were slaveholders back in that time, I mean, if that's a few of them, but basically, that person that would be a slaveholder or another person would be Christian. And why is that? Well, he wanted to build projects just for the sake of like it's like voluntary work, and you're stuck with that person. And I mean, that voluntary work and being stuck with that person means you do the will of that person. You do the will of God sometimes, and you submit yourself to being just who you are, not really above yourself, which is a servant of God and a servant. Basically, you're just a servant. And there's another type of slavery which did help Satan and did not help God. It was absolutely, how do I say it, not really a good thing for any of us. It involved racism, and so did the Egyptian slavery. There's Egyptian slavery that um, basically caused tremendous pain and suffering. And then there was American slavery as well, which, in some sense, caused tremendous pain and suffering for the mental and emotional sense of the people. And this slavery in America caused a lot of crime and a lot of racism and all that. In Egypt, it was causing them to really try to escape all that pain and suffering by being kings and going only for themselves. But in our sense, it caused crime and it caused racism. So there is such a thing as good slavery and bad slavery. Now, let me tell you something. Lincoln fought for to get the country, our country, to not be divided as the two nations, but to be as one country, as America, not to be divided, but to be as a union, as to be in unity of one another. Of course, he did not like Abraham Lincoln did not like the divided states as much as you think he did, but he'd rather have made the whole country come together as one, as states, than he did have two divided beliefs in the whole country. He even stated some fact that anyone who reads the Bible should not divide it. He said in the statement, "Why should we fight? If why should a group of people fight over the word of the Bible?" He does not say. He said that anyone who basically divides themselves over over the good book or the Bible is not really a person that really is loving. He's basically saying that anyone who fights over the good book, fights basically divided on the good book, is not really what he really wanted. So, in that sense, he really wished that these two countries, or these two unions or confederacy, just he wished that none of them would have a huge argument or fight or whatever that is. But he did decide, we're gonna have a war to see which one is better, because I think he already knew that one of them was gonna lose, and that he knew that the Confederates were gonna lose, and he decided that they had less equipment, they had less weaponry, and he knew that with that the Union, the northern part of America would win. So he decided that if we keep slavery, it will be defined by the Union, and that it will be less racism. But unfortunately, he said, this slavery thing has gotten to be out of hand, and that I believe he said later on in the war that this is a war to end slavery, because he knew exactly what he was doing, and unfortunately he was ill. He had no knowledge of what the slavery was all about. He knew that it was racist. He knew what it was, but he didn't know how bad it really was. So he decided that since America was really, winning the war, from the North was really winning the war, that he would actually abolish slavery. He did not know. I don't think he knew, however, how bad the South really was with racism. So, in a sense, he wanted to fight to go against racism in America. And now, this is what Lincoln fought for. Lincoln fought for a country to be, not divided, but all in one. He wanted the country to be, all together and basically not racist. He did not fight for, however, a country divided again with racism today as it is. Nor did Jesus fight for, or not, nor did Jesus die on the cross for people being divided or fighting against countries or anything like that, for Satan or for crazy values or anything like this was happening in the world. Jesus did not die on the cross for people suffering. He did not die on the cross for people to be racist or people to fight for drugs or be proud or anything like that. He did not die on the cross for that. Nor did Abraham Lincoln fight the good fight or try to win the war just so we could be racist and anything like that. Let me get to the point of Jesus, because Jesus is the one that died on the cross so that we could be with him. So we could be a servant, but still be with Jesus and be kings. What is this all about? Does not mean that we'll be ruling over Jesus, but it does mean that we will be ruling under Jesus, underneath his ruling. We'll be like the person on the side of Jesus, who is like a queen or like a prince. We'll just be under Jesus. And the one that was ruling, after, let's say after Lucifer was the one that was replacing Lucifer, and Jesus did say to Lucifer, he was going to create humanity to be over angels. I mean, that was the most offensive thing that he has ever heard. And the report is he had to be kicked out of heaven because of what? I mean, hold on. Lucifer heard that humanity was going to be above angels and that they were going to be dumber than him. I mean, that's pretty much what he heard. And he was so offended that he went against Jesus and and basically went to hell. And there had to be a replacement for that. And he said, let there be a creation above this. Not humanity so far, but let there be a creation that can withstand all the pressure points. And that was, something that we'll find out in heaven. Or maybe we'll find out about that sooner or later on Earth. But there was a creator that was creating creation that was, on his right-hand side, just to, not Mitchell, but on his right-hand side, just to, replace Lucifer, and and to actually, basically, and it was basically, it was God, Jesus, but, it wasn't Jesus. That Jesus is our God. Jesus is the one that is our Father and our God. Our Father is a prime ruler, and that is basically, like we have our soul, flesh, and spirit. That spirit is, his righteous attitude, and the flesh is Jesus, and the soul is his Father, but the soul did not reveal it to the people, but he did reveal it later. So, of course, not even Jesus knows when the world is going to end. But in a sense, back then, Jesus did not know when the world was going to end, nor is he going to tell us when the world is going to end today. He's not revealing that to us, no, is he? And of course, the Father is his, it's his prime ruler, Jesus. So, it's one body, which is Jesus. Now let me get to a point of here. He created a being that was going to replace Lucifer, and he did. But that's just a temporary replacement. Then there was humanity, which is going to replace everything else. Basically, we're to be servants in the beginning until we just have that ruling just under God. We replace Lucifer and, whoever is ruling right now. We replace Lucifer. And of course, it was just offensive. But right now, we have to be servants of God. And if anyone is to be a slave, they better not be a slave of an evil person. That is basically going against the meaning of that person, or against their will to have a life that is basically if their life is full of pain, that is not a good slave. That's not good slavery if the life is full of pain. If their life is, if they don't like being a slave, that's not a bad slave. But they have to submit themselves to being a slave, in the sense that a good slave, a good slaveholder does not make the slave happy, but it does make the slave, in a sense, not having a painful life, or does that slaveholder make that slave worse off than it was before? Because basically, the slaveholder is, for the slave, he would correct the slave. He would tell them that you're servants of God, and that you are indeed a child of God, and that you must work for me, and that I have a project for you. Doesn't mean he will be a lifetime slave, but means that, in a sense, he is with that slaveholder for whatever time he wants him to be with him. I mean, it sounds illegal right now, but back in the Roman days, that was the case, because Roman slaves were good and bad. The story of Titus, that was, in a sense, why we should submit ourselves to be slaves with certain slaveholders, because that in the end helped the slave become a better person. He was a servant, but he was a better person in the end. And I believe that slave became a child of God and went to be with Jesus later on. And that is a good slaveholder. Other than going against what the values of a certain president named Lincoln, that he had to fight for us, and racism and certain slavery. So, in a sense, if Abraham Lincoln was completely successful, and I know he couldn't be, that would be impossible. There would be no racism in America, but I mean, the day that he was shot, he was, he did not have a very good life, but not in the sense that he was unholy. He just had a very sad life. He just saw the people the way they were, and that in the 1800s, that he saw the people being, gamblers. They were in secret immoral. They were in secret, let's say, trying to go against the law, and in truth, that they were all trying to go against him. And in truth, many were racist and Confederate, and in his office that there was a huge divide, and they were going out of control. And he did not like that. He tried to fight for America to become a better nation. And of course, Lincoln did not fight for racism in America, nor did he fight for people being brutal, nor police brutality, nor fights or protests for, let's say, white supremacy. Nor did he fight for white supremacy in America, being basically fighting for, like, people fighting in the middle of the streets, just in the middle of America, just to fight against racism. Nor did he fight for this. Nor did Jesus fight for any of all the sins in America, like pride, or drug abuse, or any witchcraft, or any cowardly behavior from certain people, or false prophets, or people that were saying it's the end of the world, or saying the people that said it's doom and gloom, or anything like that, or people that spread lies, or people that are corrupt, or anything like that. Jesus did not fight for that. He only fought for the children of God, just to be with him, so that he could fight for his freedom for his children, so that one day we would forever be in peace, and in beautiful peace, and live the most beautiful life you can ever imagine, with Jesus and with each other in the most beautiful way possible. For that peace is beyond understanding, that joy is beyond understanding, and that love is perfect. Love lasts forever. and the Bible will last forever. Those are the only two things that will last forever. It's over the law. So that's three things that will last forever. Perfect law will basically still stay in our hearts, and that love will last forever. And you know what will last forever? Everything else. That is through God, through the Word, and what all is in the Word. That will last forever. And never will it last. And never will people in heaven, it's like infinite time. All infinity will people's hearts be pure and beautiful in heaven through rough times on earth. May you indeed be the most beautiful child of God in heaven. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Alright, I'll be done now, okay? Alright, bye.